Hi there, my name is Jess, and this is my channel, Jess Plays Apart, where I talk about music, books, video games, writing, anything I want that involves creating something. So I'm so happy you're here. This is going to be my second quarter book reviews for 2025. The second quarter of the year is April, May, and June. So this is going to be everything I read in those 3 months. If you're interested in what I read in first quarter, I do have that video already up on my channel. So I'd appreciate it if you check it out. Let's go ahead and jump in. First book I read of second quarter is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I bought this last year, I believe, and I just got around to reading it. I'd never read it before. I know lots of people recommend reading it. So in The Bell Jar, we follow a 19-year-old Esther Greenwood, who is a college student chosen for an editing internship for a magazine. During this internship, she really strives to meet the social expectations set by her boss and her fellow colleagues. And ultimately, she just feels really detached from it all, despite her best efforts in trying to do that. Regardless, she learns quite a bit from her peers and several dates about sex and sexuality, which causes her to do a lot of reflection on her own relationship with a boyfriend, kind of on-again, off-again situation back home, and really determining what she wants out of her relationship, not just to have one. Back at home after the internship concludes, she learns that she was not accepted into a writing course and falls into a deep depression due to this, because she was kind of hedging her bets on completing this course so she could become a famous poet. To remedy this, she attempts and fails to write a novel, and her depression deepens to the point of multiple suicide attempts, leading to hospitalization and admittance into a sanitarium. While she does find a bit of success and stability with talk therapy and some treatment, she realizes that the bell jar of her mental illness will always kind of hang over her. Nevertheless, the story ends with her feeling encouraged, leaving the psychiatric residency and enrolling for a fall semester. The bell jar is something that is heavily recommended, especially in feminist spaces. And while I do see why, especially for it being so groundbreaking for its time in its discussion of women's sexuality and depicting mental illness in a way that wasn't quite demonizing compared to a lot of other literature at the time, I expected more. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. It was a good read, and I do recommend people read it just to get that kind of literary context of things. Maybe if I had read it in my 20s rather than my 30s, I'd feel differently about it, but that's just me. That's just how I feel at the moment. With that, I give The Bell Jar 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is nonfiction, and it is John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed, Essays on a Human-Centered Planet. If you're not familiar, which I don't know why, because you're literally on YouTube right now and he's probably on the front page. Anyway, if you're not familiar, John Green is one half of the Vlogbrothers channel here on YouTube, also co-creator of Crash Course, Complexly, 8,000 other projects, as well as an author who, up until recently, really focused on the young adult genre. I've loved his nonfiction works. I've read almost all of them, I think. There might be like 1 or 2 that I haven't read yet. So I was really intrigued by his delve into nonfiction. So the Anthropocene Reviewed actually started through a video series on the Vlogbrothers channel. It then morphed into a podcast, and then that further morphed into this book. This is a series of essays in the format of basically a Yelp review, and they are centered around everything from velociraptors to our capacity for wonder. I think it's perfectly balanced with humor, information, emotion, and revelations. Again, my bias might be showing with this because I've loved Vlogbrothers and John Green's works for a very long time, but I really, really enjoyed this. All of the essays follow the same format of the video essays he did. A lot of them are kind of almost direct transcripts of that. So if you enjoyed that, you will definitely enjoy this book. My one qualm with the book is I felt it just kind of ended abruptly. I don't know, I think I was hoping for like a pretty little bow on the end to tie everything together, but there wasn't one. It just kind of stopped, which that might have been intentional, I don't know. But regardless, I give the Anthropocene, fucking words, I give this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, we're going back to banned books and classic literature with Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is a fairy story and depicts an animal rebellion against their human farmer, and the animals resolve to make their own society in which every animal is treated equally. However, this utopia is quickly overtaken by a pig named Napoleon, who bends and changes the rules to his own benefit, to the other pigs' benefit. And this dictatorship eventually leads to even worse conditions for the residents of Animal Farm. So this is one of those that you typically read in high school. I actually did not read this in high school. So I've read it for the first time just this year. This is another dystopian novel, similar to Brave New World. It is eerily similar to some current events right now. Even though this was written in 1945, I believe, the way Napoleon and the other pigs gaslight the other animals and manipulate them to their own advantage is unfortunately pretty reminiscent of a lot of things that are happening today, and how certain political figures and influences are lining their own pockets and covering their tracks. So yeah, pretty relevant. So I wouldn't call this an enjoyable read because of the subject matter, but it's fairly short. It's a very small book, so you should be able to get through it within a few days at the most. But I really recommend you read it if you have not already. One, because it is classic literature and it's very important to make sure you are reading some classic literature just so you can catch those references in other forms of media as well, or even real life, as we've come to find out. So I definitely recommend you read this. And I give Animal Farm 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I'm actually moving to contemporary fiction with The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This is a story told by 15-year-old Christopher, who we meet when he is attempted of killing his neighbor's dog. He runs away, ends up hitting a police officer and getting booked for that. Once he's released with a warning, he is determined to solve the mystery of who killed Wellington, the dog. His teacher asks him to write a story, so Christopher decides he's going to write a mystery novel a la Sherlock Holmes, and that story is what becomes this book. It's very meta in that way. We quickly find out that Christopher is neurodivergent in some way. Though there is never a diagnosis mentioned, it's not mentioned by name, but the way Christopher often refers to how he finds people confusing, he much prefers and understands math and science. He numbers the chapters in his book by prime numbers rather than just going sequential, and how he often finds the world just too big and too loud for him. Through the course of solving the murder of Wellington, he uncovers a secret about his mother that his father had been keeping for a couple of years at that point. While this is a first-time read for me, I have seen a stage version of this. I think I found a pro shot of a production somewhere in London or something like that. So I was already familiar with a lot of the plot lines and the overall theme of the book. But as far as the book itself goes, I enjoyed it for the most part. Christopher's thought processes are really lined out by pictures and diagrams, and it really helps you understand where he's coming from, even if you do not relate in the same way to these neurodivergencies. The twists in the book were a bit predictable, but I think they were still executed well. And as far as being representation for the neurodivergent community, I think it does fine. It does decently. I don't believe the author identifies as neurodivergent, and I believe he has stated that he did not do research on autism or other types of neurodivergencies when writing the book. So just for that reason alone, I do wish it were more accurate, that it was like clearly stated, like, hey, this is an autistic character, hey, this is a neurodivergent character. This book does not say that at all, and neither does the play, to my knowledge. So for that reason, I wish it were a bit more accurate in that regard. It's a very good book, and if you're able to see the stage version, I really recommend you do, because a lot of times the set design will really play into a lot of kind of Christopher's breakdowns, so you can actually see and feel what he is seeing and feeling at the same time. And with that, I give The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime 4 out of 5 stars. The last book of the second quarter is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the second prequel of the Hunger Games trilogy. So this takes place during Haymitch's games. So this would be the 75th. Is that what my notes say? Nope, just kidding. So this is the 50th Hunger Games, or the second quarter quell. This is a fairly new release. It just released in June. So I don't want to spoil it for people if you haven't read it yet, but oh my god. This is probably my favorite of the entire series. Seeing where Haymitch started in this book, while at the same time knowing what he becomes by the time the events of the trilogy happen, is just so mind-opening. It's just absolutely mind-blowing and really helps flesh out his character even more so than it already was. And just I cannot say enough good things about this book without spoiling. You'll also see kind of the reasonings for his actions in the trilogy being played out in real time during his games and during the aftermath of his games. And it's just so incredible knowing what Haymitch had to go through and how he is using that as his motivation for his actions in the trilogy. A quick warning, you will be hurt over and over and over again. I was gutted for days when I finished this. Days, Suzanne. I completely recommend reading this book. If you by chance have not read any of the Hunger Games series, if you want to read in release order, start with the trilogy and then go back to the prequels. The prequel before this is called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That is from President Snow's perspective when he was young. But if you want to read in like sequential order, start with Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, then this, then the trilogy. That's what the order of things are. Yes, read it and cry with me. So in addition to doing reviews on all the books I did read, I do like to do a little section on anything I did not finish that quarter. And this one kind of hurts. But I did not finish The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. If you are not familiar with The Artist's Way, it is a 12-week self-guided course in kind of reactivating your creativity. It's really recommended for anybody who wants to be in a creative field. So writers, painters, dancers, actors, anything along those lines. It's not exclusive to those fields. I think she said in here that lawyers have taken this course and have benefited greatly from it. So anybody can benefit from this if you're feeling stifled in your creativity or just want to do some self-reflection. The kind of pain point for me is this was my third attempt on completing it, and every time I've attempted to complete it, I get to like week 6 or 7 and it just fizzles out. What is week 6 and 7? 6 is recovering a sense of abundance, so that's telling. Okay, gonna have some thoughts about that later. But my hope is to either restart it or pick back up where I left off. In the next week or so, my performances are wrapping up for the show I'm doing right now, and I don't have anything on my agenda yet. So I'm hoping I can really hone in on this and complete it by the end of the year. I don't know, maybe I should make a little like weekly check-in situation that'll help keep me accountable. Oh, let me know your thoughts, and let me know if you have completed this or not completed this, or not completed this 3 times like me. So I don't feel alone. Thanks. All right, so that wraps up my quarter 2 reads and reviews. Let me know if you have read any of the books mentioned, especially if you've completed The Artist's Way and have any tips for getting through that halfway through slump. I would really appreciate that. You can find me everywhere at jessplaysapart. I am mostly active on Twitch and Instagram. I'm also on bsky and TikTok. I am almost done with my first playthrough of Stray, that game that came out a couple of years ago where you're a little cat and you make robot friends. I'm loving it so much. I'm really hoping to finish that here in the next week or so. So please go ahead and check those out. I also upload all of my streams here on YouTube, so you can check that out as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.